Hello everyone, welcome back to Coach Craig Sports. Today I'm going to be doing a little start sit. I'm going to be going through all 15 matchups remaining for the weekend, telling you which guys I like in this matchup, who to start, who to sit. I know it does vary a little bit depending on your team roster construction, so keep that in mind when I'm talking about this. And we'll talk a little bit about last night's game as well. The Browns beat the Bengals last night. Pretty good fantasy game overall. Baker Mayfield looked decent. He had a pretty good day. Joe Burrow had 3 passing touchdowns, so he was fantasy relevant. Joe Mixon didn't have a touchdown, so he was kind of almost irrelevant in this case. Tyler Boyd had a pretty decent day. CJ Uzama had a pretty good day before his injury. And on the Brown side, we had Nick Chubb with big game. Kareem Hunt had a pretty good game as well. And then Odell Beckham Jr. obviously caught a touchdown as well. Just a quick rundown on that. But with that being said, I'm going to get started on my little slideshow here. I'm going through each matchup. Like I said, I'm going through each matchup and talking starts and sits for you guys. So without further ado, we'll get into it. The first matchup I'm going over is the Bears and the Giants. So we'll start on the Bears side. Mitchell Trubisky is kind of a streaming option this week against the Giants' board defense. So if you really need a streamer, you can go ahead and start him. If you're in a 2-quarterback league or super flex league, you can start him as well this week. And he'll probably be able to put up some decent points for you. David Montgomery I like as a start this week. The Giants gave up over 100 yards to Benny Snell after he came in for James Conner. So it should be a good matchup for him. Tariq Cohen, he could be okay flex play this week, but I'm not going to count on him. So he's probably a sit for me more than anything. Allen Robinson's a must start this week. Giants defense did not look good last week against Pittsburgh. So expect him to have a big game. Anthony Miller, this is the hard one. I like Anthony Miller. I love the talent. He was only on the field for 42% of snaps last week, so he's going to be a sit for me. Jimmy Graham, consider him a tight end streamer this week. If you need somebody, don't feel too bad picking him up. He did see 7 targets in the first game. And then the Bears defense, you could play them because Daniel Jones is a little bit turnover prone, but if you have a better option, I'd go with that. We're not going to start Kyrie Santos, the kicker, in this matchup. Then on the Giants side, we got Daniel Jones. The Bears defense is pretty good. Don't expect too big a week for Jones. I'd only consider him if you didn't have any better options or you're in a 2-quarterback or super flex league. Obviously, you're starting Saquon Barkley. There ain't no question there. Where you picked him, you got to start him every week. Darius Slayton, I do like this matchup a little bit for Slayton, just depending on who's on him. If Fuller's on him, the matchup might not be quite as good, but he's still a start for me. Sterling Shepard's more like a flex play for me this week if you need somebody to fill in there, just depending on what the rest of your roster looks like. A lot of this depends on if Golden Tate plays or not, too, as well. So Golden Tate's a set for me either way. He's coming off a hamstring injury. So either he's not going to play or he's going to play and he's going to be kind of limited. So he's definitely not somebody you want to be starting this week. Evan Ingram, this is not a great matchup for him. I wasn't too impressed with him against the Steelers. So he's probably a set for me unless you have no other options. Giants defense, we're going to be sitting. Their defense is not very good this year. And Graham Gano, the kicker. If you got him, you can start him. If you got better options out there, I'd go for the better options. And next game we got up is the Rams and the Eagles. So we'll start out with the Rams side. Jared Goff against this Eagles. He could have a decent game. He's kind of like a streamer or a 2-quarterback league option for me. I do like Malcolm Brown in this matchup. The Eagles did limit the Washington football team's running backs pretty well, but they're not very good. And I expect Malcolm Brown to have more of the same from last week. Might not have 2 touchdowns, but you have a decent game. You could use him as a solid flex play this week. Cam Akers I'm avoiding completely. He's going to be a sit for me. Robert Woods, he's kind of on the borderline for me. If he's going against Darius Slay, he might not have as good a week. But feel free to start him as like a wide receiver 3 or a flex play. If you got better options, go with your better options. Cooper Kupp, he's kind of in that same category. He's going against a pretty good nickel corner, but he should see some targets. Tyler Higbee, as much as I hate on him, he does have a good matchup, so you're probably going to want to start him this week. And then the Rams defense, I do like them a lot this week. Obviously, Carson Wentz struggled a lot against the pass rush last week. The Rams have Aaron Donald. I talked about this a lot in my DFS segment, so if you guys haven't already seen that, just check that one out. I explained that a lot. Sam Sloman, the kicker, I'm not starting this week. Then Carson Wentz, I wouldn't start him unless I'm in a 2-QB league or a Superflex league this week. The offensive line plays terrible. He didn't look good in the second half last week, so he's just too big a gamble for me. Miles Sanders, if he plays, I'll start him. If he doesn't play, consider starting Boston Scott as a flex, but you don't need to. Deshaun Jackson, Jalen Reagor, I'm not going to start either one of them. One of them is going to be going up against Jalen Ramsey, and they're just too hit or miss, especially this week. Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz. Feel free to start both of them this week. I think they have decent matchups, especially with the kind of younger Rams linebacker core. Eagles defense, you're not starting. Jake Elliott's a pretty safe kicker. You can start him unless you have a better option. Falcons and Cowboys, we got Matt Ryan. He's going to be a must start this week. He's going to throw the ball a ton just like he's going to do all year. Then Todd Gurley. I like Todd Gurley as a start this week. Cowboys defense did give up a lot of yards rushing to the Rams. Malcolm Brown did look good against them, so Todd Gurley looked good in game 1. So I wouldn't be surprised if he has a good game here. Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, I'm going to start both these guys. Russell Gage, he could be a flex play for you. It just kind of depends on how the game script goes. So he's not somebody I'm particularly excited to start in this matchup, but I do see the upside. But if you got a better option, I would definitely go with your better option. Hayden Hurst in this matchup could be all right. The Cowboys are with Van Der Esch, the linebacker now, so it could be a decent matchup. Maybe you're able to exploit it. If you have a better matchup, feel free to use your better matchup and kind of wait and see on Hayden Hurst. Atlanta's defense, we're not starting pretty much ever. Young Ho Koo, the kicker, feel free to start him. He's a pretty good kicker overall. And then the Cowboys side, we're going to start Dak Prescott. We're going to smash Ezekiel Elliott. I think he's going to have a huge week. You're going to be starting him every week regardless anyways. Amari Cooper, I do like as a start this week against Atlanta's secondary. He's a little bit banged up in practice, so just keep an eye on that if you need to pivot from him. Michael Gallup and CeeDee Lamb. I like both these guys this week, actually. I kind of think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Blake Jarwin missing is going to help both these guys out as well. Dalton Schultz, the tight end that's stepping in for Blake Jarwin. Please do not start him. He's a sit for me. I know Dak likes throwing the tight end, but he did not look good after he came in for Jarwin. Cowboys defense, we're not starting. Greg Zuerlein, light him up. Panthers and Buccaneers. So we'll go with the Panthers side first. We got Teddy Bridgewater, who I'm not starting. Tampa Bay's defense is very good. You obviously have better options at quarterback. The only way you're starting him is if you're in like a 2 QB or super flex league and he's your best option. Christian McCaffrey, he's a must start, but just tamper expectations this week because he has not performed well against Todd Bowles' defense last 2 times he's played against them. The wide receivers for the Panthers, I'm kind of fading all these 3 guys. If I have to start one, it's going to be DJ Moore. But if you have better options, I'd go with your better options, especially in week 2. Ian Thomas, the tight end, I'm not starting until I see something positive from him. It wasn't too great week 1, so I wouldn't expect too much in week 2. Panthers defense, you're never going to start. They're very much a work in progress. Joey Sly, the kicker, he's one of my favorite kickers overall, but it might not be the best week to start him. But if you don't have a better option, go ahead and do it. Tom Brady. This is a great matchup for Tom Brady going against a poor Carolina secondary. Look for him to bounce back. If you got a better option, you can start him over Brady, but if you don't, feel free starting Tom Brady this week. He should have a good week. Ronald Jones, I love in this matchup. Carolina's Panthers defense, you saw what Josh Jacobs did to them. So don't be surprised if Ronald Jones does more of the same. Leonard Fournette, I don't expect to get a whole lot of touches even in week 2. So I'm sitting him. Chris Godwin, he's in concussion protocol. If he doesn't play, we got to sit him. Mike Evans, feel free to start him here. Carolina's secondary is not very good. Keep in mind he has been playing with that banged up hamstring as well. Scotty Miller is the guy I love in this matchup, especially if Godwin or Evans or both would happen to miss. He showed good rapport with Tom Brady. I talked about this a lot in my DFS segment, so if you guys haven't seen that, take a look at it. If you're playing in a PPR format, feel free to start Scotty Miller this week, especially if Chris Godwin misses. Rob Gronkowski is more of a sit for me this week. O.J. Howard, I kind of want to wait and see what happens with both these guys, but if you have to play one of them, you can play one of them. Buccaneers defense, I love this week. Ryan Suckup, he should have a good week, but he's not somebody I'm particularly crazy about at kicker either. But if you don't have any better options, he won't kill you. 49ers and the Jets. So this is kind of an ugly matchup, honestly. Jimmy Garoppolo, you could use him as a streamer quarterback this week. He doesn't have a lot of weapons to throw to right now with all the wide receivers that are hurt. Sounds like Brandon Ayuk might play. George Kittle might not play in this game, so that's something big to watch out for. And if you got a better option, go ahead with the better option. Otherwise, against that Jets defense that got lit up by Josh Allen, it's not a terrible matchup. Raheem Mostert and Jerick McKinnon. I think McKinnon has good value in this matchup, maybe as a low-end flex play. Mostert, you're going to start, but kind of tamper your expectations with him going against the Jets and possibly not getting as many carries. The 49ers receivers, we're not starting any of them until we see them do something. George Kittle, if he plays, you start him. If not, you don't. Jordan Reed is a sleeper streamer tight end this week. pretty much only if George Kittle doesn't play. If you're playing DFS, he's a great pick in DFS if George Kittle doesn't play as well. 49ers defense, start him up. Robbie Gould, start him up. There's not many good options on the Jets side. We're not going to play Sam Darnold. He's a definite sit in this matchup. Frank Gore, he's old. He could have some value, but unless you're completely desperate, I would not play him. Jamison Crowder, we're going to start him unless his hamstring injury gets worse and he doesn't play. Then obviously we're not playing him. Brashad Perriman, we're not starting. He's been injured as well. Chris Herndon, he didn't look great week one. He's kind of like a borderline tight end. If you need a tight end, you don't have anything better, feel free to play him. If Jamison Crowder misses for whatever reason, Chris Herndon would be a decent start then at that point. Jets defense, we're obviously not playing. And Sam Ficken, the kicker, we're not going to use either. And we got the Broncos and the Steelers. A lot of the players on the Broncos sides are going to be assists this week. And that's mainly because the Steelers defense is so good. I'm going to be sitting Drew Lock. If you got Melvin Gordon, you're probably going to have to play him. But if you can get away with sitting him, I wouldn't be too upset about that either. You've seen what the Steelers defense did to Saquon Barkley. Cortland Sutton's probably a sit. If he plays and you don't have any better options, you can start him. Jerry Jeudy's more of a sit for me too. Like I said, the Steelers defense is very tough. The one guy I'm probably going to start in this matchup would be Noah Fant. Drew Lock has to throw the ball to somebody, and if Sutton doesn't play, and Jeudy kind of gets Joe Hayden in coverage, it could be a good game for Noah Fant again. Broncos defense, we're not really going to start them. If you don't have any better options, I guess you can do it, but I'm not too excited about it. McManus, the kicker, is fine. Big Ben Roethlisberger, I like him a lot in this matchup, actually. Denver's defense is decent. They gave up some big plays to Corey Davis and Ryan Tannehill in the passing game. They're without corner A.J. Bouye this week, so don't expect them to be quite as good. James Conner and Benny Snell, it just depends on who's actually playing. If Conner plays, you can start him. If he doesn't play, you could start Snell. Juju Smith-Schuster, he's a little banged up this week. Just keep an eye on him. But if he plays, you start him. Deontay Johnson's a must-start for me this week, playing on the outside, going against a rookie corner. I talked about a lot in my DFS video from yesterday. He's a must-start for me. Eric Ebron, the tight end, I'm sitting him until I see more from him. Steelers defense, we're starting. Chris Boswell, we're starting. Jaguars and Titans. This one's kind of an interesting matchup. Gardner Minshew, you can stream him, or you start him in a 2-quarterback league if you need to. James Robinson, he's more of a running back 3 or a flex play for me. I'm not crazy about him this week. I kind of want to see a little bit more from him, see what happens if they're in a negative game script. I don't have Chris Thompson down here, but Thompson could be like a flex play if you think this is going to turn into a negative game script. But like I said, with Robinson, I'd just sit him as well and see what happens going forward. I like DJ Chark in this matchup. Adoree Jackson's on IR, so that helps him out a lot. Visca Chanel, I kind of like in this matchup with Titans secondary being banged up, but he's more like a wide receiver 4 flex play for me. If you don't have any other better options, you could play him, but you're probably going to have some better options. That's kind of the same thing with Keelan Cole down below him, so they're going to be sits for the most part. Tyler Eifert's a sit until we see more from him. Jaguars defense, we're not starting. They did have a good game last week, but I wouldn't expect too much from him. Josh Lambo's a very accurate kicker, so if you need him, or if you need a kicker, he's not somebody that's going to hurt you. Then we got Ryan Tannehill on the other side. He's a great streaming option this week. You've seen Phillip Rivers throw for over 300 yards against the Jaguars. Kind of talked about this in my DFS article as well. You'll see a lot of overlaps in between those two. Derrick Henry I do like a lot this week. You're going to start him pretty much every week anyways, so no questions there. A.J. Brown, somebody to look out for, see how his injury plays out throughout the week. If he doesn't play, Adam Humphries could be a viable flex play in PPR. Could help boost Corey Davis as well. It'd be interesting to see who C.J. Henderson covers in this matchup between Corey Davis and A.J. Brown, depending on if Brown plays. But Henderson did look good week 1, so don't be surprised if he shuts one of these guys down. Jonnu Smith, I do like in this matchup. I feel like you can start him pretty easily. Titans defense, they're kind of middle of the pack for me this week. It could be a good matchup for them, but don't expect too much. But if you don't have any better options, feel free to start them as well. Steven Gostkowski, we're probably going to sit after he missed 3 field goals last week and an extra point. Probably already dropped him if you'd seen that happening. Packers and Lions, we got Matt Stafford on the Lions side. I'm going to start him up. This could turn into a shootout game, and he could put up a lot of fantasy points. Adrian Peterson and DeAndre Swift. This is where I'm at with these two guys. If it turns into a shootout, DeAndre Swift is a viable flex play. If it doesn't, Adrian Peterson's a viable flex play because the Packers' run defense is not very good. Just kind of depends on how you think this game turns out. Probably not starting either of them, honestly, unless I have no better options. Kenny Galladay's a start if he plays. I don't think he's going to play, so you're probably going to end up sitting him. Marvin Jones is a start, especially if Galladay doesn't play. Hawkinson's a start if Galladay doesn't play as well. Lions defense we're not starting. Prater is a solid kicker you can count on. Then the Packers side, I've got Aaron Rodgers. Should be an easy week again for him, so feel free to start him. Aaron Jones is a must start. Devontae Adams is a must start. Alan Lazard and MVS. One of these two guys could hit this week. You can use them like as a flex play if you really need to, but they're not guys I'm going to go after unless you have no better options. Packers tight ends, we're not starting any of them. 4 of them saw action last week. Robert Tonyan was the guy who saw the most time, and he was more of a blocker than anything. We're not starting the Packers defense because this could be a shootout game. Mason Crosby, feel free to start him if you got him. Bills and Dolphins. We got Josh Allen over here. Josh Allen's a start this week. Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. One of these guys is probably going to have a good week. I don't know which one it's going to be. So if you want to start one of them as like a flex, like a running back 3 guy, feel free to do so if you don't have any better other options. Stephon Diggs, John Brown, and Cole Beasley. One of these wide receivers is going to have a good week. I can't tell you which one it's going to be. Stephon Diggs is probably going to get Byron Jones on him. And John Brown's probably going to get Xavier Howard on him. That's not the best matchup for them. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's Cole Beasley week. If you're desperate in PPR and you need somebody, Cole Beasley could be a guy to look out for. Diggs you can start. John Brown you can start if you really want to, but I wouldn't advise it. The Bills defense you're going to start. Dawson Knox you're going to sit. Tyler Bass you're going to sit. There's not really anybody I want to start on the Dolphins. Fitzpatrick's a sit. Gaskins and Howard you could use as flex plays if you're really desperate. Devontae Parker's probably not going to play, so you're going to sit him. Preston Williams is going to draw Gilmore in coverage, so you're not going to start him. Gesicki you can play if you don't have any better tight end options available. Dolphins defense you don't really want to play, maybe in DFS, hoping Josh Allen gets some turnovers, but that's the only way you're going to do it. And then the kicker I'm not too crazy about either. Vikings and Colts. One could be an interesting game as well. It could be a very run-heavy game, or it could turn into a shootout. Just kind of depends. Kirk Cousins, I'm going to start because I don't trust the Vikings defense. If they give up points early, he's going to be forced to throw. Dalvin Cook, I do like him in this matchup. Alexander Madison, if you're in a real deep league, you could play him as like a flex or a second flex play, but that's the only way I really see starting him this week. He looked good against the Packers. Adam Thielen's a must start. Justin Jefferson's a sit. Kyle Rudolph and Irv Smith are both sits for me. Vikings defense is an obvious sit. You can play Dan Bailey and feel good about it. Phillip Rivers for me is a streamer this week, or if you're in a 2-car UB league, you start him up. Against that Vikings poor secondary, he could have a big week. Jonathan Taylor is a start like as a running back 2 for me this week. Naheem Hines is a start as a flex play for me this week. T.Y. Hilton you can start. This matchup is a pretty good matchup overall. Paris Campbell, feel free to start him in this matchup as well. He did look good week 1. I didn't put Michael Pittman Jr. on here. He's a sneaky matchup this week because of how bad the Vikings secondary is, but I wouldn't feel comfortable starting him in week 2. Jack Doyle, I don't really feel too comfortable in this matchup as well. He's been banged up in practice as well. Colts defense, we're probably going to sit. Rodrigo Blankenship, I'm going to sit as well. Washington and Arizona. For the Washington football team, we got Dwayne Haskins. He's a sit for me. The Washington Redskins, I don't trust any of them this week. Peyton Barber was obviously the most productive fantasy-wise, but he was awful in real life. Antonio Gibson only saw 24% of snaps. J.D. McKissick was in there more than anyone. I don't trust any of them this week. I think Arizona's defense has improved, but just kind of keep an eye out on these guys as we go along. Terry McLaurin, you can start. He's probably more like a wide receiver 3 or a flex play for me this week going against Patrick Peterson. Not the best matchup, but Dwayne Haskins has to throw to somebody. Logan Thomas, I do like in this matchup. The Cardinals weren't great against the tight end last year, and we don't know if that's changed yet or not. So you can start him if you don't have any better options. Like I said in my DFS article, you can start both these defenses and probably get away with it. They both have potential in this game. Dustin Hopkins, he's all right if you don't have anybody else better. Kyler Murray, feel free to start in this matchup. He should have a good game. Kenyon Drake the same way. DeAndre Hopkins, you're starting every week. Fitzgerald and Kirk, I'm probably going to sit both these guys. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them has a good game, but I don't know which one it's going to be. Dan Arnold is a sit for now until we see more from him, see how much he's used in the passing game overall. Like I said, Cardinals defense you can stream this week. And Zane Gonzalez, you can feel free as starting at your kicker spot. Ravens and Texans. So on the Ravens side, I'm pretty much firing up everybody. Texans defense is pretty bad. We're going to start Lamar Jackson, obviously. Start Mark Ingram. Start Hollywood Brown. Start Mark Andrews. Start the Ravens defense. Start Justin Tucker. The one guy I'm probably not starting is J.K. Dobbins. I know he had 2 touchdowns the first week, but he didn't look particularly good running the ball. I see Mark Ingram get more carries in this game. Overall, just kind of wait and see on Dobbins in this scenario. Deshaun Watson, you can start. If you have a better option, you could really start your better option. David Johnson's more of a running back 2 or a flex play in this matchup for me. Will Fuller, you can start unless you have a better option. Ravens defensive backs are very tough. We're going to sit Brandon Cooks. We're going to sit Brandon Cobb. Darren Fells and Jordan Akins. If you're going streaming tight end and you just want a touchdown, you can try for one of these 2 guys. They're probably better for DFS than anything. Texans defense, we're sitting Kaimi Fairbairn. He's a middle of the road kicker. If you want to play him, you can, but I wouldn't expect too much from him this week. Chiefs and Chargers, Patrick Mahomes, a must start. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a must start. Sammy Watkins, we're not going to start. He's going to be a sit this week. They go against Casey Hayward and Chris Harris Jr., 2 very good corners. Desmond King's also in the mix. I don't see a big week for Sammy Watkins. Tyreek Hill, you can start, but I wouldn't expect too much for him overall. Travis Kelce's a must start. Chiefs defense, you could try to stream, see if it works out. Not the greatest matchup in the world, though, but not the worst either. Harrison Butker is a must start at kicker. Tyrod Taylor, he's a set for me unless you're in a 2 quarterback league or a super flex league. You can try him out then. Austin Eckler is a start. Joshua Kelly in a deeper league, you can start him as a flex spotter if you don't have any better options. He might be a little bit more touchdown reliant than anything, but he did look good running the ball in week 1. Keenan Allen, I'm not too crazy about in this matchup, so I'm probably going to sit him. Mike Williams, you could probably start as like a flex or like your last wide receiver. I think if the Chiefs go up big, he's going to be the guy they target a lot, but he's probably not somebody you are going to have to play this week. Probably better for DFS than anything. Hunter Henry, you can feel fine starting this week. He should see a lot of targets, especially if the Chiefs go ahead early. Chargers defense, we're avoiding this week because the Chiefs offense is so good. And then Bagley, the kicker, we're probably not going to start. Patriots for Seahawks. We got Cam Newton. Feel free starting him. Seahawks defense isn't great. It's better than it was last year, but it's still not that good. Patriots running backs, I'm just going to wait and see on all these guys. If you really need to play one, you can play Sony Michel in like a standard league as your flex spot if you're desperate there. You can play James White probably in PPR if you're desperate there as well. N'Keal Harry, I'm probably sitting. Maybe if you're in a standard league and you think he scores a touchdown, you can play him this week. Edelman, we're going to play pretty much in all leagues, so he's a start. Ryan Izzo, the tight end, he's a DFS play for me more than anything. He was in a lot of the time at tight end, but he's not good by any means. So in redraft, you're probably not going to have to start him, I hope. Patriots defense, we're going to sit this week. Nick Folk, you can play him if you need to, but there's probably better options out there. Russell Wilson, a start this week and every week. Chris Carson's a start. Carlos Hyde's a sit. DK Metcalf is a sit for me in this matchup. The rumor is that Gilmore's going to cover him. And if Gilmore covers him, I don't see him having a big game. Last week he didn't look good. Besides, he had 2 big plays on kind of broken coverage. So I think that benefits Lockett more than anything. Lockett's still the go-to guy. So don't expect too much from Metcalf, but I'm going to go out and start Lockett. Greg Olsen, you could start if you really need a tight end, but he's still not the best option in the world. You still got Will Disley and Jacob Hollister there as well. Seahawks defense is a sit, and Jason Myers, the kicker, is a start. He's one of my favorite kickers this year, and I think he's going to have a great year. Saints and Raiders, we got Drew Brees. Drew Brees is going to be a start in this matchup. Raiders defense is not very good, but temper your expectations with Drew Brees. If you have a better option, start your better option. Latavius Murray, you can start in this matchup. He's actually kind of sneaky with Michael Thomas out now. He should see more carries. Alvin Kamara should play out at receiver a little bit more. It's a good matchup for Murray, and I think he has a decent week. He's a viable flex play option if you don't have anything better. Alvin Kamara is a must start now, especially with Michael Thomas out. Emmanuel Sanders, you can start with Michael Thomas out. I don't know how much to expect from him still. Traquan Smith, I would not start yet. I'm going to sit him, wait, see how he does with Michael Thomas out. Jared Cook's a must start with Michael Thomas out. Saints defense, you can feel free starting in this matchup, and they shouldn't be too bad. Will Less, the kicker, you're obviously starting as well. Derek Carr is a sit this week. Saints defense looked pretty good, especially against Tom Brady and Tampa Bay last week. So we're not going to trust Carr this week. And Jacobs is a start, but he's more like a running back 2 this week. Saints defense is very good against the run, so don't be surprised if he doesn't have a good day. Henry Ruggs you can start if he's healthy. Bryan Edwards is going to be a sit this week. He did play on 75% of snaps, but he only saw 1 target, so don't expect too much from him. Just a wait-and-see approach with him so far. We are going to start up Darren Waller this week. I think he has a decent week. I think he's the go-to target in the passing game this week. Raiders defense is obviously a sit, and Daniel Carlson, he's kind of middle of the road. If you got a better option, feel free to start the better option. And that was it for the start sits for week 2. Hope you guys all enjoyed this. If you guys have any start sit questions at all, please feel free to reach out to me. Leave them down in the comments down below. You can reach out to me at coachcraigsports@gmail.com, on Twitter at coachcraigsport, on Coach Craig Sports Facebook page. If you guys have any questions that start sits at all, feel free to leave them. I'll answer as many as I can. I've been doing this a lot for people, and I want to help you guys as much as I can, especially for week 2, especially for fantasy football in the 2020 football season. But if you guys liked and enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. It helps to build the community that we are trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports. If you're a new or current subscriber who hasn't already done so, please also hit that notification bell. It'll let you know every single time that I post up a video. But with that being said, that's pretty much all I got for today. Hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Hope you found it helpful, and have a great rest of your day.